Hello and welcome back to another episode of the One Kick from Glory podcast. We are all in different locations, but we still got some great football to talk about today. I'm joined with Matthew and Craig,
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah,
and we're going to start off talking about the derby, the biggest derby in London, according to the majority of the podcast. It's the North London derby, Arsenal versus Spurs, a 2-2 victory for Tottenham because apparently they won, even though they drew.
yeah.
And it's fascinating being seeing the response of the two different fan bases to the result. But I want to start with you, Craig. Like, how would you feel that the derby went from your point of view?
First half, we played excellent football. Should have been 3 or 4 up before half time. We became very complacent, and they scored just before half time to make it 1-1. Second half, we were very after they took off Declan Rice and brought on Jorginho and took off Vieira as well. With very lapsy daisy. Jorginho made a mistake for the equalising goal after we scored the penalty to make it 2-1. Um, I thought there was no leadership, lack of leaders. Like when you 2-1 up, you need to learn how to just keep it tight for the first 5-10 minutes after conceding scoring a goal because Tottenham are going to be all over you. They're going to want to get an equaliser straight away, and we're very thought, oh, we won the game kind of. If we're going to go score another, and we didn't do the job properly. Jorginho gave the ball away, or lackadaising on the ball, got tackled, and then they scored from it. So I was a bit disappointed with the result, to be honest with you. 'Cause I thought that could have been an easy win for us if we had done the right things. Like Jesus missed the sitter when he should have buried it to make it through 2-0. I thought if we went in at halftime 2-0 up, we'd have won the game. I don't think Tottenham would have come back into the game if we were 2-0 up. But I feel that we almost could have lost it in the end as well because Richarlison had a chance to score as well and he missed. So we were hanging on in the second half, to be fair. So yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely was an interesting watch. I was watching the game throughout the whole match from where I am. I'm currently away, undisclosed location. But it was just fascinating watching it whilst I was on my day. I was looking at some great sights, and I was just had the Arsenal game in my ears and the phone in my hand. I'm just like, what is going on? But I guess for you, Matthew, just looking back at that game, I want to point out the two kind of key moments for me anyway that would have made the result a lot different. First one, as Craig mentioned, Jesus is missing the box. Great play from him to try to win the ball back, but just lack of composure in his finish. And then secondly, your old boy George and his ridiculously poor play in the middle of the park. But we'll start with Jesus. Like, what was your take on that moment, and how do you think that he needs to kind of develop as a striker going forward?
Well, he's there for that kind of reason, really. He wants to be the main man up top. He's competing with Nketiah at the moment, who is, after his like little renaissance being called up for England, has got a point to prove. In many ways, though, but going back to Jesus, it sounds like he's got similar problems to Nicholas Jackson, where he does everything right. It's just that final third, he can't quite finish the rest of his dinner in front of goal. I don't know whether it's a confidence thing. I don't know whether it's. I mean, he must be doing some kind of training because he was injured for a while. I know that. He's kind of just work at his finishing, in high profile moments and big games. Because this is a big game for you guys. Massive, massive game. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head how well he did in this fixture last year, both fixtures, which I believe you won both of them. I'm not as aware as if
Yeah,
he
one of them both.
scored, but you had goals literally coming from everywhere on that side of the pitch, so it kind of didn't really matter. He needs to learn how to perform in those bigger moments. Like at Man City, as much as he was going to be the future of that strike force, it was either a Sterling or a De Bruyne or an Aguero or someone else that was taking that moment, just not him. And that's what he's in your team for. He's going to be the guy that's going to drag you forward, get you 15 plus goals to drag you towards this league. Now he needs to work on that to be the main guy. Leagues are won by strikers that score that amount of goals. I mean, excluding that freak that is Haaland, in normal terms, as 15 plus in a season is normally pretty good for any kind of striker. So he needs to work on his finishing a little bit more, try more diverse things, especially in the derby when Spurs are going to be up for it because they think they got like a point to prove. So he needs to walk like that. As for Jorginho, it seemed very familiar. Almost found myself screaming at the screen as well. I was like, oh wait, no way, he doesn't play for us anymore. I've been there before. He has unfortunately got this in his locker. I believe he did this once when we played you guys, and you got a single solitary goal. He made bad pass to Kepa. This is when we were in our resurgence towards the Champions League final. I thought we were going to win, and we didn't think it'd be a turnover. But he was solely his little error confused Kepa, and then Smith Rowe goes in and scores. He's unfortunately got that in his locker because it's like he's playing a different game to everybody else, and he's very. His awareness is sometimes a bit poor when it comes to putting pressure on other players, i.e. your defence and mainly your goalkeeper. So looking at that thing, that's unfortunately part of the risk when you have someone like him in the team. For what he's good at controlling the game and spraying all these really good passes and indeed being quite vocal and being a leader, he does... we have to remember, he may be an Italian of football, but he was born a Brazilian. Take from that what you will sometimes. But, when we talk about Brazil... Normally, we don't talk about their defense, the defensive thing. They're all about going forward. And, as much as Jorginho is about the hold, he's got good attributes going forward. So I felt like a bit of deja vu in that game when I saw that mistake. But, Son, he loves that kind of thing. So it made the game really, really interesting. It was a game of literal two halves. You had the first, they had the second. So... Hey, no complaints when neutral. Fantastic game. Sure, damn sight better than ours.
Yeah, I mean, I just find it fascinating how they've taken this and run with it like they've won. I mean, there's even a meme going around with it showing like all the managers that Ange Poster's apparently taken out and apparently like Klopp's next. I'm just like, you guys didn't even win, you drew. So I think that's a funny thing with them. It's just how they value things as well. Like for the general Arsenal fan base, they think we're having a really poor start to the season, which in context, we played 6 games now. We've got 4 wins and 2 draws. And like points wise, I think we're only like 2 points worse off than last season at the same point. And when you think about it, it's not really that bad. We've had some, and if you look at our performances across all those 6 games, there's been a lot of positives. There's also been a few negatives and things that we need to improve upon. I think the big talking point, as always, within the fan base is your other boy that you got from you, Kai Havertz, and how well is he adjusting to what we're trying to do. And obviously the club are. And I liked Mikel Arteta's comments, in the pre-match interview for the game coming up this weekend against Bournemouth. And he was saying that there's things that he's doing which we like, and there's things that which he's doing which he needs to improve upon. And he's learning a new system, he's adapting to a new way of playing and different expectations. I know we've talked about Havertz a lot, Craig, but I guess just one final thing on you. Were you surprised that he didn't start in this game? And what other changes would you have made to the lineup, considering how well the likes of Smith Rowe and Nelson performed in midweek against Brentford in the Carabao Cup?
First thing first, I wouldn't have started Havertz in that game. Vieira was a good start to start the game, and he played well in the last couple of games. You don't want to drop a players in form. Secondly, I wouldn't have started Eddie and Kessie, and I would not have started on Jesus on the left hand side. That was a waste of a player. You can't play 2 of them together; it doesn't work. I know it could work if you're playing a 4-4-1-1 or something. If Jesus is number 10 and Kessie up top. To be honest with you, Nketiah didn't look like he wanted to play that game. He looked lost. He was lucky not to get sent off. Because that was a disgusting tackle. He could have broken the goalkeeper's leg. It was disgusting. I have to say it after. And he didn't look like he every time he got the ball in the game, the ball was just bouncing off him, you get into good positions, and the ball was going past him. The defender wasn't being clever, like trying to hold it up, trying to flick it round. And sometimes one thing I've noticed with him as well, when he plays up top, the players don't find him. They don't look to pass the ball to him. There's lots of moments in the game. If you look at the game in depth, you'll see that Vieira had the ball. And instead of him playing, and Nketiah will make a run, and he put his hand up for a run, and then Vieira will just turn back and play it the other way. He wouldn't look at him, and to me, it looks like the players don't believe in him that he's an elite striker, or he's going to be an elite striker. To be honest with you, because I know if Jesus made that same run, that Vieira would have found him, or if Martinelli was playing, he would have found him if he made that same run. So I feel like maybe the players need to have more faith in him. Obviously, this is our striker, so we have to back him, but if they're not going to have faith in them, what's the point in playing him? It's just a waste of a sub, a waste of a starter. So that's the only issue I have, really and truly.
Yeah, I think on that note about those passes, because it is a thing that I've noticed as well with Havertz when, in the games he's played so far, he does make lots of little runs in behind, and the team are slowly starting to get used to them and start to pick those passes off. Looking at Nketiah, I think, because it was a thing that was frustrating me a lot, is that the positions he puts himself in to try and make that pass, that run in behind, the type of pass you need to execute to drop the ball on his foot for him to control it. It's like we've got players in our squad that can do it, but it's such a high risk pass because if you overweight it, it's gone through to the keeper comfortably or it's going out for a goal kick. And like, if you get it on the money, his touch has to be on the money as well. And he doesn't really position himself in like if Jesus is making those sort of runs from out to in, he's a lot wider. See, there's more of an angle for you to swing that ball around and get it into him. And Nketiah is still quite in. So the type of pass you're looking at, it's not really a curved pass, which is usually better to avoid defending. It's going to be a straight chipped ball or a straight line rule ball through. And usually with straight balls through, again, the weight has to be spot on. If the weight isn't spot on, it gets cut out. If it's too much on it, it's through to the keeper. So I think the thing is, like, he does make runs, but he doesn't really make runs in positions where you're going to get the ball. You're not going to get the ball if you're making runs just off the back. Like, you're not too. There's not enough disguise in this positioning. Like, you're behind the defender, you're in between the defender and the right back, but you're not. There's a way you can do it, and he hasn't quite mastered that yet. His movement in the box is good, but those shoulder runs, that's one thing. When you look at Balogun versus Nketiah, and it's a big thing that a lot of Arsenal fans, when Balogun started to break through in the youth system and when he got a handful of minutes in the first team, that's the big difference in the two of them, is that off-the-shoulder run. Balogun knows how to position himself so that if the ball's going to come through, he's going to get it 7 times out of 10. Whereas with Nketiah, he doesn't position himself in the right spaces to get the ball in the same way. And also, because of the work Nketiah does in the general build-up, he's a lot deeper. Like, his run's starting from a lot deeper. So to get that run, to get the ball through to you, you have to be quite quick. And a lot of times he's just too deep. So that's a big problem with how he positions himself. And I think it's a thing that he's going to have to learn as the season goes on, because Jesus can make that difference up and Nketiah hasn't quite got it. Because if they were to play the ball through to him, he'll just keep getting more frustrated. He might get a chance, he might score, but majority of the time it probably wouldn't work out. But I guess for you, Matthew, like looking at, like I said, the general sentiment online between Arsenal and Chelsea fans Arsenal and Tottenham fans has been so different. Tottenham fans are literally celebrating a draw as a win. Arsenal fans feel like it's the worst crisis point in the season. How do you kind of evaluate the outcome of this game? And what do you think positives can you share from, like, for Arsenal, and if you have to and if you must, from a Tottenham point of view?
I mean, the outcome, I think, was a fair one in balance. You both had a half each. You both had key moments where it could have gone, like, either way. But what it does show, but I think a lot of people, I think we did as well, had you guys walking this. We honestly did. I mean, it's Spurs haven't got much of a challenge this season. I mean, they're in the position where, as us, where they're not in Europe. They're really, truly, domestically is where they're at, and they're already out of the Carabao Cup anyway. So they've only really got one competition to focus on. But it does mean it gives them a lot of time to improve on their overall Premier League position. Plus, losing their talisman Harry Kane, which so far, bar that one slip, they're unbeaten like you guys. You have to say, kind of in a way, it has worked out for them a little bit. James Maddison is kind of doing what I would love for our team to do, and that's making that progress, making that attacking kind of threat, playing exciting football, which we did for about 2 or 3 games. Whereas at least with them, they can muster something up and come up with some kind of result. They still have striking options. They're just nowhere near as good as Kane, but a goal will come from somewhere. I mean, it's 6 games. I'm not calling it a crisis for either of you guys. I mean, look at last year. Man City barely led for most of the season. It didn't really top until about, April, May time at the business end. We can't be talking about Premier League decisions just yet. Look, like I said, look how far last year got, and you only got overtaken at the very last minute, only finished 5 points behind them. So it's still so much to go for. Plus, you're in the Champions League. You progress to the next round of the Carabao Cup without even get to the FA Cup as well. Man City can have games coming up. They're going to get the Super Cup. They're going to the Club World Cup, which is more squad rotation going around. They have got knocked out. They were knocked out of the Carabao, which used to be their favourite little thing to rely on. So if all else fails and their season flops, they can't rely on that exactly. There's going to be an interesting. It's going to be an interesting future. Rest of the season for the both of your teams. I think Spurs. Okay, Carabao Cup didn't work out. I was wrong about that, but the FA Cup might be the one. It could be. You never know. And then there's also talking about with you guys. Your seasons are still kicking off. You're unbeaten. You've got a vastly different squad to what you have now, because the squad you had last year were used to each other so much. You got a whole bunch of new guys in there. You got effectively got a proper second team. Likes of Rice coming in, but likes of Timber coming in, obviously he's injured. Then you got the likes of Havertz, and obviously then there's players going out. Xhaka going, Partey going for most of the time. You're unlearning a whole way of playing, especially in the midfield, to incorporate like new players. But obviously injuries coming around, so you got to kind of adapt from there. So look, the point is you're not losing. You haven't lost a game since the start of the season, so something must be doing right. You beat Man United in a key game. You've got Man City coming up, and I don't think it's going to be exactly. They're not going to have it their own way of late. The 2 games where arguably, three games arguably where they haven't been 100%. They had to come from behind in the Champions League. They beat the Nottingham Forest game was scoreline alone a bit flattering, and then lost against Newcastle. They're doing all that rotation, so. Look, it's 6 games. So a lot is still, to come up. And with Spurs as well. I mean, I've got my eye on Spurs because they're one of our key rivals getting into the top 4. So I'm looking at them right now as a little, dare I say it, as a little bit of a threat. I never thought I'd say that because at least they will conjure up a goal from something. We struggle badly if it doesn't go our way for about 25 minutes. They'll keep going. So for the pair of you, this result is a fair one, but there's a lot of positives to take from either one. You're still on the frame for the title and whatever else you're going for. And they're going to improve. I reckon they're going to improve on their 8 from last year. I know it.
I mean, but by default, they should improve
Really,
on their
truly,
8 from last year. Whether they make it any higher than that, I don't know. I mean, they're still Spursy.
True,
So they got a great manager, but they're still Spursy. And nothing's going to change that for a little while. But I guess moving on from them, let's talk about Luton Town. Got their first point of the season. What's your take on that, Matt? And then Craig, what's your kind of perspective on them? And do you think now that this should kind of catapult them back up the table?
Well, their home games for a team like Luton, their home games for any promoted team that comes up, your home games are going to be so vital. And this was possibly one of the first most winnable ones. Yes, they got a draw out of it, which is still a positive. It's points on the board. They can kick on from here. But their home games are going to be like absolutely crucial in this state. If they happen to get a point away from home somewhere, count your blessings. But they're going to have to make that. It's a very small ground. It's literally within a whole bunch of houses. But with small grounds means you can hear everything. You can feel everything. They're going to rely a lot on a very small stadium. I've been to Bournemouth Stadium, and to think that Luton's is smaller than that, is beggars belief. But they're going to have to rely so much on them getting them through it this season. A lot of them will probably think realistically we're not going to stay up, but at least try and make an impression and make it a very, not a difficult place to go, but an uncomfortable place to go. In these kind of areas, from the glitz that is the Emirates, Old Trafford, Etihad, Stamford Bridge, and Anfield, you go all the way to Kenilworth Road or Turf Moor, Bramall Lane, that kind of vibe. They're going to make it uncomfortable for you. I can imagine as the weather gets cooler, much colder, going to November, January, February, December, those nights, they're going to rely on that massively. Their home form is going to be, for one, they're going to just get something out of it. So I don't know who they're playing next, but their home games are going to be 38 games. That's 16 games, 16 home games. You got to look at those. So try and get points in those 16 as best as you can. They've got one. Go. Let's continue.
Yeah, they've got Everton away next up. That's coming up on the weekend. So we'll see if they can continue on this resurgence. I guess one player I want to talk to you about, Craig, in that match was the man of the match himself, Pedro Neto, a player that was heavily linked to Arsenal a couple of seasons ago in the summer at the time. I think David Ornstein broke that we made a massive inquiries into making a big bid for him. Obviously, he had the terrible injury, and it was a case of the club wanting to assess to see whether he comes back to his best. I think we can safely say that he is now back to his best. Is that a player that you would be happy to bring in the winter as rotation option for Saka?
100%. If you can stay fit between now and the end of the season, then yeah, I'll only be bringing in more injury-prone players. Because we think that over the years we've been buying all these players, and after 1 or 2 games they get injured, they're out for months. So we need to buy players who can stay fit for who's durable for the whole season and can stay fit. And but he's a good player. I rate him a lot. He's a very good player, and he would definitely give Saka a run for his money. So, and he's quite young as well, Portuguese young. and he can score goals like he did on Saturday. He scored a wonder goal, so he's got that in his locker. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I think one of the key things with Arsenal, especially like with the players we look at, is just to keep like adding in good competition. There's been lots of talk, obviously, about Raya, Ramsdale, and all that situation. Frankly, I'm not going to get into it. I did call it right though that the player that started the league in the Champions League game will also play again in the following league game. So I think that was good. What I would like to see Arteta do, I would like him to play Ramsdale the next 3 games. So I want him to play against Bournemouth, his old club, and then after that, we have Man City,
Champions League.
and then Champions League. I would play
No,
him in all,
Champions. No,
Champions League first, then
we've
Man
got
City.
Bournemouth, we've got Lens, then we've got Man City.
Yeah, so I personally would play him in all 4 games, and then after the Man City
Rotate
game,
it.
and then I would make it a 3-3. So Ramsdale keeps his place for the next 3 games, and then Raya can come back in, and then I think that'll be a good way to reward good performances because Ramsdale was back to his very best against Bournemouth. I liked what he was doing. He does play well away from home, so I think those two of those games are away from home, and Man City's at home. So you could argue that match. You could pick between the two of them. I think the next two, this Bournemouth game and then Lens in the Champions League, I think I would give Ramsdale the nod. But we'll see what Arteta does. It's going to be a long, hard season. And of course, Everton secured a win for the first time in a long time. A very good performance from them. Did call it as well about Doucouré being one of their key goal-scoring players, and he could have had 2 goals in that game. Unlucky with the second shot, which hit the crossbar. How hopeful are you, Craig, on Sean Dyche now being able to get a good run of performances together from his team to keep them going? So, like I said, they've got Bournemouth. They've got Luton next, so that could be another 3 points. But how well do you think Everton will continue on throughout this season?
Everton's a massive club. There's a massive history. They used to win titles back in the day. They're a big club from Liverpool. They need to stay in the league because they've spent an awful lot of money on some bang average players who are not good enough. Let's be real. They've wasted a lot of money on some bang average players who were not value for money. Some of them got let go. A lot of them got let go. A lot of them just were not fit for the club. What they've done this summer, they brought in that better striker. I think he looks quite good. It's very raw. He reminds me of Drogba a little bit. It's very raw, but I think once he can pick himself up and get used to the league, I think he'll be a problem. I like their midfielder. Or not his name?
Oh
What's
no,
his
yeah.
name?
Nana, yeah.
Or not? No. The one who came from the tall Belgian one.
Oh, I can't. I mean, his name. I know who you're talking about, but his name.
The
Yeah.
tall Belgian one. Not an Arnold. Oh, I can't remember his name.
Yes.
I mean, he's very good. I think he's a very good player. I think he if they had to sell him, they could get decent money for him. Calvert Lewin's a big thing as well. They need to keep him fit. If they can keep him fit, he'll definitely score goals in this league. He's done it before. He had a good run before he had those injury problems. He was scoring a lot of goals for Everton. So I thought if they can keep their core players fit, I think they should be all right to do well. To do okay. But if they start getting injuries, then you're looking at their squad list. That their starting 11 is quite good, but their bench is not that strong. So that's what you'd be a bit worried about them in the season. So yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and pans out for them. But that's the good thing with this league. It gives you opportunities to really perform and hopefully build on that as well. Let's move on to Matthew, your hot take of the week. What have you got
Right,
for us?
here we go. I got a sneaking suspicion is every year you get a team that you want to watch this one team because you think that they might do something unexpected. And my hot take for the season even is one team to watch, and that's Nottingham Forest. I got a sneaking suspicion. I don't just think they're capable of getting into the top half of the table. Dare I say it, I think they could make a very ambitious push for the Europa Conference League.
Wow.
Because think about it. Stamford Bridge, Emirates, Old Trafford, even the Etihad. They weren't blown away in all of those games, and they won one of those games. Granted, anyone can beat us right now, but the point still stands. They are... Every year you get a team. Normally it could be normally it's a Brighton, a West Ham, a Villa, a Spurs, a this or that, but they're already proving the point right now. So that eventually one of those teams was going to struggle quite a bit and may find their league position fall a little bit, maybe right at the bottom of the top or top half of the bottom. And I think, and I'm seeing very close, that's there's a Nottingham Forest shaped whole gap, possibly, that they can do it. They've got a good squad. The second time round, they're going to know the league a little bit better. They spent that Brennan Johnson money quite well. Also, it's freed up. It's going to give them a bit of freedom in the team, and they got someone. I know Clive, you don't think much of him, but Hudson-Odoi, a bit of European experience in the Champions League and the Europa League. They're playing with someone who knows how to win, who's won European trophies in the last 5-6 years. So, and he knows Steve Cooper very well. Steve Cooper's good at working with young English players. He's got one I think he's worked quite closely with, so if I'm not mistaken. So there's a possibility Forest to make the Conference League. Dare I say top half of the table.
Just to clarify, it's not that I don't rate Callum Hudson-Odoi. I just think when you're putting him in the same conversation as Rashford and Saka, or just put Rashford, you put him in conversation with Saka. I'm sorry, they're not even close. It's not even close. No, but other people have. That's why for me, I'm just like Hudson-Odoi. He has his place in the pecking order, and look, Doucouré's playing.
Hey,
man. Not much more I can say. So
he scored a good goal as well.
I'm happy for him, but he did score a good goal the other day. But look, there's levels to this, and he's not at that level. So respectfully, he is where he deserves to be, and hopefully he can kind of push his career on and carry on and lift Nottingham Forest up to new heights. Like you say, Conference League will be a good place they can get it this season, and I think that would help establish his reputation. I do want to have one little quick aside before we get on the serious matters this week. But the whole Jadon Sancho, Eric Ten Hag public spat, which is just getting more and more pathetic by the week. I guess for you, Craig, like just looking at how everything's playing out, obviously Sancho, now it turns out Ten Hag wants a public apology, which he's not going to get. Apparently Sancho's been up playing, or allegedly he's been up playing FIFA late at nights, which is why he's been coming in late training. And I don't know if this is still true. People are saying stuff and you never know. People show screenshots, but who knows what the truth is. I just ultimately looking at this realistically, when you think about what it takes to become a footballer, and it's very hard to break into. I think it's even less than 3% of people that actually start off in youth academies actually make it through to become professional. You think about the journey that he's been on himself, from going to Man City in their academy, moving overseas to obviously starting off in London youth system, but going to Man City, going to Dortmund, now at Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and to see how from the outside looking in, it looks like he's literally throwing his whole career away, and for what I don't know. What do you think he needs to do, going forward with the situation, and ultimately, do you just feel like it's a bit disappointing that a promising young footballer is effectively having half of the season written off because of an issue that really should just be dealt with in-house?
I feel that, to be honest with you, it's a waste of talent. A couple of seasons ago, wasn't it? You're playing an European Championship final 2 years ago. 2 years is a long time in football, and now he can hardly get into Man United starting 11, not in the reserves, not in the first team. It's a shame. It's a very talented player. Him and Reece Nelson came through together. They're best friends. One is going up in their career, and one is going down. As you can see, Reece Nelson's getting minutes at Arsenal now, and Sancho should be on that level at Man United, getting minutes, playing for England. But it's not. It's gone the other way around, and it's a shame. A talented player like that, if you got anybody in the street who loves football, and they would love to be a professional footballer, and they would bite your hand off to give him the opportunity that Jordan Sancho has had right now to be a professional footballer, and him not taking it seriously, or I don't know I can't say if he's not taking it seriously or what's going on, because there's two sides of the story, and we don't know if he's not training properly, we don't know what's going on in his personal life, but something doesn't seem right, because if you're a professional footballer, you had an issue with the manager. That's why you have your agent. Your agent is supposed to sort out, not you going on Twitter or wherever you went on and saying this about the manager. You should go to have a meeting with your manager, your agent, talk to your agent talk to the club, talk to the manager, resolve it that way. But because it's went public, obviously the manager's not going to have it, because the manager's a disciplinarian. He's not going to have anybody speak out of tone about him and the way how he does things. So I feel that what he needs to do is either apologise to the manager or leave in January. He's going to lose out 6 months of football. So what would you rather do? So it's up to him now. The ball's in his court. He has to make the right decision for his career and his future. And would he get a big move to another club? Would any club want to take him? What would happen at United? Would any club want to gamble on him? So he's got to look at it like that. He's got to look at the pros and cons of things. He's got to look at, you know what, am I gonna reach the level my potential could be, or we're going to end up into playing for a low league club. That could eventually happen to him if he doesn't buck up his ideas. He's 23 years old. He's getting older now, so and these are the peak years of his career. Early development is losing on his development as well because he's not playing. So yeah,
I guess for you, Matthew, what's your kind of take on the whole situation, and how what would you do to kind of, or if you were advising Sancho, what would you even say to help
I
resolve it?
I find it a worry when like professionals like him in the position that he's in, how hard he's worked to get where he is now to only be 23 is wanting to have the opinion of people that aren't in the space, that don't know what's going on. I mean, and aren't going to be they're not going to be there when it all goes wrong. So why did he need that validation from people that aren't in the situation? I don't know. Craig's right. We don't know what's going on both sides of the coin, but this has the potential to go horribly wrong in many ways. You only have to look at someone like, there was another footballer not long ago in a similar position, had all the promise of the world, was the talk of the town, had a great international tournament not long ago, and that was Dele Alli. I'm not going to say that's I'm not going to say that's going to happen to Sancho. I don't want it to. It was bad enough to happen to Delhi, but there's mentally he could be going through all kinds of things right now. He's not playing football. A few years ago he was a hot ticket. He was a man about town. Everyone wants him. He got that big money move to Man United. It hasn't exactly worked out the way we wanted it to. There's a lot to play at here, it may just be a case of you have to be a certain kind of player to say that about your club and get away with it. And he's not in anywhere near the position to justify saying that about a club and thinking he's going to get that kind of, thinking he's got the ego to have the club in check. Very few players have that experience and magnitude to demand of their club to then have the club be like, come back and be like, you know what, you're right. Messi might have it, Ronaldo might have it, Zlatan might have it. Seeing as he sees himself to have that kind of clout, you don't have that. Man United is for as good as they are. If for as a young talent, if you're not mature enough to, take on a manager's thing, they'll chew you up the other way. You only have to look at what 10 years ago, Wilfred Zaha barely played a minute for them. He was out back out on loan. Man United has got a string of like young talent that's messed up over the years because of a bumping in the manager. And the worst thing is now the way social media works, everyone can have their 2 cents, but none that's going to actually help him in this situation. So any problems he may have with the manager, the position you're in, it sounds typical to say, but the money you're earning and what you have going for you, it may just be one of those cases where these two sit down as men and put their differences aside because, it's easier to get rid of one player than it is to get rid of one manager. So he's replaceable in that kind of way, unfortunately. So if he wants to stay at this club and have growth in his career, there's a World Cup next year. If you want to be a part of that and have him put a good word for Gareth, you may have to take a nail on this one and just be the bigger man and just, fix your career basically.
Yeah, I think the positive thing from a Man United perspective is that other players haven't really come out to defend him or even say anything against the manager. So far, at least from the outside, it looks as though the manager's got the situation well under control and it's going well. And obviously, they got their win the other day. Very good goal from Bruno Fernandes. The type of strike that he's really capable of, and you want to see more of this season for them anyway. So I think, all in all, on the balance thing, I think that's really going well. I guess just looking ahead to the weekend fixtures and what we've got coming up. So we have, I guess the big game of the weekend is, well, if you call it a big game, Tottenham versus Liverpool at the London Stadium. No, not like that. At the, you know what the stadium's called. I won't use the name on this. But what's your expectation for that game, Matthew, and then for you, Craig?
I'm going for a 2-2 draw.
Right?
Liverpool win 2-1.
2-1. And then again, there's like a nice mixture of games. We've got Aston Villa, Brighton kick us all off, which should be quite an interesting one. Villa are at home. Are you expecting them to get all 3 points, Craig, or do you think Brighton might get another result?
Maybe a draw. 3-3 draw.
Wow. Matthew.
Well, they kicked off, Villa kicked off from now, and they obviously beat us on the weekend. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Villa win.
And then going across to Monday, you all have Fulham away. Do you think you'll be able to continue on your little bounce from the midweek Carabao Cup and get another?
I think we
win?
can. I think we can, especially if we continue from that second half performance. Obviously, Jackson's not going to be there, but Brozier's back, and he's at least a recognised striker. So yeah, why a 2-1 win for the Chelsea? 2-1 win. Why not?
What do you see happening there, Craig?
I think 2-1 Chelsea. I think 2-1 as well. And Chelsea will need to start winning because they're near the bottom of the table, so they need to start getting some wins on the belt. So yeah, I think that'll be Fulham.
And the final two games we'll highlight is we've got Newcastle Burnley. It's at St James's Park. Matthew, how you see?
3-0 Newcastle win. They're on a bit of a roll. Good win against City. Then what they did when they went to Sheffield and what they did there as well. So yeah, nice comfortable 3-0 win. Sorry, Vincent.
And then Craig.
5-0 Newcastle win. They're going to batter them.
They
had a battle Sheffield last week. They're going to batter them again. They're on it now. They're just on madness now. So they're going to be a 5-0 win.
And that City win as well, giving confidence too.
100%.
And then the final game to talk about will be Bournemouth Arsenal at the Vitality Stadium. Matthew, how do you see that?
I'm going to say a 3-1 to Arsenal, but Bournemouth score first.
Okay. Craig?
3-1 Arsenal as well. I think Arsenal are going to. We have missed a lot of players, but I think we'll definitely have enough players to go out there and win the game. So I think 3-1 Arsenal win.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot to talk about, and we'll see what happens with those results. And next week we'll all be back in person together, so we'll talk about those and the other issues that's going on around Europe. We'll save it for this episode, but we'll come on to those next week. Thanks everyone for watching. We're going to head off the rest of our days and hope you guys have a good weekend.
Peace.
Thank you. Peace.